Hello and welcome to the Business of the Business podcast. I'm your co-host, JP Chapas from the Two Man Power Trip. Of course, joining me is the doctor himself, the doctor of style. No, not really, but he is Mr. Lavie Margolin. Lavie, what's going on? How you doing today, sir?
Hey, John. Yeah, I was trying to think of some acronyms like for the doctor thing, like, Doctor of Death, Doctor of Desire. I can't get there yet. And I was trying to think like, does it rhyme? Does it have to rhyme with doctor, or does it have to rhyme with my first initial? So I'm still working on it.
It's a work in progress for sure. I don't know if we'll get into it, Lavie, but I did find that interesting little tidbit on the AEW ratings Max versus TNT. I don't know if you want to get into it real quick because I don't know if we'll have
Sure.
time later. I just thought that was very interesting. David Zaslav had the call, the media call. He was answering questions. So Max apparently is only 25% retention of what TNT gets. So that he said at most. So I know there was some different numbers. Obviously, we had BJ on a few times. BJ Bethel was on a few times. We were talking about that. So if there is some clarification there, hopefully that would be it from David Zaslav. So basically, what he was saying is 25% take, like, you get 650,000 viewers, 25% of that is going to watch it on Max. That would be 162,000. 162,000 plus 650,000 is 812,000. So that's kind of an average of maybe what AEW is doing. So they are definitely doing better than what we're reading as far as their the ratings, if you will. But only about 50% of people have cable versus streaming. It looks like 25% of those people are actually streaming on Max. So I don't know if that gives you some clarification or even helps me out, but I think maybe that's where we're going to be looking, about 25%. Does that sound right?
That makes sense to me. I mean, we know that it affected ratings right away, right? Like
Yeah.
once it launched on Max, there was a pretty quick decline in the TBS, TNT, wherever it aired, ratings in the US. Like, so you knew something was eating into that. And it also makes sense that it wasn't like a huge ratings gain because I don't know, Max, I know that they have sports, right? The NHL and so on, but it doesn't, like, traditionally, right? HBO, obviously it had boxing forever, but like
Yep.
it was more like long form drama, movies, that sort of thing. I might be dating myself a little bit, but I just
No,
couldn't
but
see
true.
people like,
Sopranos, Wire, like all that stuff. Yeah, that's like what they're known for. Yeah. Curb Your Enthusiasm. Yeah. Yep.
yeah, I just couldn't see people be like, oh, okay, yeah, like they put it on the main screen or whatever. Like, I'm gonna check out AEW maybe once. So that combination rating makes sense. It's kind of like where AEW was week to week. You're just getting it in in different forms. It's interesting though, like as these right with the news that one would spin off from the other. They'd be two separate companies eventually. What people have said that AEW would live throughout the deal on both, but then like to see where it shakes out in the future. It's almost a shame that AEW is so loyal to WBD because they're missing out on opportunities, and you could be so loyal to a company and then things change. And we know we're streaming, like, even with Netflix, right? WWE got that huge rating the first week, and then even going into other countries like India, it's just been about a third of where they are. People are willing to
Yep.
try, like if you promote it well enough, right? Like debut of AEW, WWE, like the first SmackDown on Fox, the first time it's on Netflix, people will check it out. If they're Labs fans or they're just curious, but very few stick beyond what's like an average rating.
That is very true. So as far as like the ratings and talking about viewership and things like that, that's definitely something that we're always going to be discussing on the show. But I'm very curious because the NWA is now kind of dipping their toes, not as far as TV and ratings, things like that, but how they're going to be viewed differently here. What's going on with the NWA and maybe a fast streaming channel here going on?
Yeah, so it's interesting. Like, it's just the news of the week that like distribution is probably our theme. I think we're going to be breaking some potential wow news depending on how that turns out, and even some like Good Brothers on
Yeah.
30 countries potentially. And most sources are just sharing that for what it is. So I dug a little bit deeper into that, which we always do on the show. But first, the NWA. NWA tweeted out huge NWA news. The NWA has inked its biggest first run television deal. So As the years go on, John, I'm maturing a little bit, and I'm a little bit more flexible on this. Like, my first reaction is to be like, no, it's not television. But I know, like, even working with students in a college who are 25 years younger than me, like, for them, like, they don't think about like TV, right? Like, if it's on a screen and they could stream it,
Yes.
most likely
Yep.
they're not subscribing to cable and would never consider doing so. So, okay, so the language is changing. For me, though, it's not exactly a TV deal. Has inked its biggest first-run TV deal in over 25 years with Roku. John, you made me a big fan of the Roku. The
Yes,
number
a
one
bit.
streaming platform in North America. So, wrestling, I think this was from Deadline first. So, exclusive. Wrestling fans are set to get a new round of bouts to watch on streaming after Corgan's NWA struck a deal with Roku. The deal will see matches airing on the Roku channel in the US, Canada, and Mexico starting July 29th. So, I was like, it took a while for me to like keep searching, like, is it like the main Roku channel? There's so many Roku channels. So, it's actually going to be on the sports Roku channel starting July 29th. So, again, US, Canada, and Mexico. It marks the first significant deal in the last 25 years, maybe even, I would say, like 35 years. We don't have to review the NWA's history, but the move will see NWA matches streaming for free every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Of course, you can't, if you're in prime time, it'd be very hard to avoid other wrestling programming. The NWA has expanded its programming over recent years for 10 pounds of gold, as well as weekly broadcasts on the CW app, which, no longer happens. So this is interesting. It's the latest sports deal for Roku, which also airs MLB Sunday Leadoff, NBA G League, Formula E, Pro Volleyball, and Bassmaster. When I purchased the NWA in 2017, it was understood we inherited the history and legacy of the most storied brand in all of combat sports. So to announce today we've now partnered number one TV streaming platform in North America is indeed a moment to be proud of. I look forward to sharing new episodes of NWA Power with the incredible audience that Roku brings. And then from Joe Franzita, head of sports at Roku Media, we're thrilled to call the Roku channel the streaming home of NWA, and Bill and his team continue to excite audiences. We look forward to tapping into the scale of our platforms. This is interesting because it's through Paramount. It was only a week or two ago that NWA was announced through Paramount, the wrestling channel, which would be distributed exclusively on the Roku along with WoW. So getting some different types of exposure on the Roku. Now to look at first, we'll look at this in different parts, but let's look at like the Roku's reach and so on. So I used Grok. Number of homes reached. As of 2024, the Roku channel reaches U.S. households with approximately 145 million people, which based on an average of 2.5 million people per household translates to 58 million households. This figure comes from Roku's own estimate and supported by their Q4 2024 earnings, which noted that at least one Roku-powered device is in half of U.S. broadband homes. Viewership for Roku is measured through several metrics and resources. Roku channel accounted for 2.4% of total U.S. TV usage, ranking as the fifth most watched streaming service, trailing YouTube, Netflix, Disney, Prime Video. In November 2024, it held 1.9%. And it was the most watched fast service ahead of Tubi and Pluto, nearly double Pluto. ComScore. In June 2024, ComScore identified the Roku channel as the most popular fast service. Roku reported an 84% year-over-year increase in streaming hours on the Roku channel, with 2/3 of Roku's 90 million, right? You get something. 90 million active accounts engaged with the channel in Q4. The average Roku user spends about 4 hours and 13 minutes on the platform, with 80% of Roku channel streaming hours driven by content directly through the Roku Experience interface rather than the app. Projections indicate the Roku's viewership grew from 2021 to 2025, reaching nearly 20% of the U.S. population, an estimated 4 million additional viewers. The Roku channel's popularity is driven by its free ad-supported model, appealing to price-conscious consumers. Viewership data is also enhanced by partnership with measurement firms. The channel's growth is part of a broader trend towards fast services. Okay. Then our friend of the show and upcoming panelist with me, which we'll talk about at the end, Romy Glazer, formerly of
Yes.
TNA Wrestling, checked in with some great facts as well. Wrestling fans are about to see Corgan's NWA in more homes than ever before, a thread on fast channels, fast funnels, and the fight for modern wrestling fans. Okay, so weekly NWA matches will are Tuesdays. A new fast channel, Wrestling Central, will from Paramount featuring NWA and WOW. Distribution across the US and Canada via the Roku channel. It's their first major run deal in over 25 years. That's real movement, arguably the most since Ric Flair, but it opens a deep question. Can it take them to the next level? Fast, Pluto, Tubi, Samsung Plus. No login, no subscriptions, just press play. It's the cable model we built for the streaming era. Fast is very appealing for wrestling promotions. Built-in reach, so Romy has 80 plus million homes. Frictionless programmatic ad revenue. No app to build. No audience to acquire. Legacy brands can scale overnight, but here's the trade-off. You lose first-party data. You don't have a lot of control over the viewer experience. There's no easy way to convert fans to subs, ticket buyers, or merch. Revenue is shared, not owned. Ultimate renting an audience. This works great if you already have the infrastructure. We have a great example of that with YouTube, with Worlds Collide, which got 764,000, 4.1 million viewers in 24 hours, according to Variety. That's found money for them, brand extension, new stars born. But if you're small, you have a low cost per million ad payout, and then the trade-off hits harder. That's why for small brands, I always saw fast channels as ideal for tape libraries, low-cost shoulder content and replays, event promo content. Give away what you can afford, earn a little ad money, use them to sell the next show. According to Romy, during my time at TNA, Michael Shushenko, Rob Klinkman, and I liked a hybrid approach, an AVOD tier inside TNA Plus, free content, ad support via one of our providers, program like a fast channel, surprise content drops to surprise and delight fans, but crucially, we would own the viewer. A little bit more friction, a lot more leverage. That kind of strategy would let the brand track viewer behavior, retarget with storyline updates, merch, and surprise drops, convert to ticket sales or premium subscriptions, and build a real funnel from casual to loyal. Fast gives you reach, AVOD Plus data gives you strategy. So is NWA's deal a win? Absolutely. It raises visibility, opens up scale, and puts them back in the conversation. But to challenge TNA or anyone, they'll need more distribution. They'll need infrastructure, and that's what I'll be watching for next. Eyeballs help, but in 2025, the game is conversion. So what I wanted to do actually not finish it off, but a lot to say, is poke around a little bit just in terms of giving some insights from various media platforms into where like Roku is, what their ambitions are with sports and so on. Roku is working to dial up the X factors for its free ad-support streaming TV service, bringing more live sports programming to the Roku channel. Like how many times, right, John, in history have we seen like wrestling being that driver no matter new media, right? It goes back to the advent of television. Huge amount of wrestling on over-the-air TV when it was black and white and just starting out. Wrestling really found its footing when there was UHF channels, cable TV, streaming services, and so on, and everything in between. Specifically, the Roku Fast Channel will air the X Game at Aspen, which takes place in Colorado. Okay, so that's one thing. Speed One Sport live racing network announced its debut on the Roku channel. Okay. MLB games are being aired on Roku. In expanding programming on Fast Roku, launches dedicated premium Roku sports channel, which is home to live Sunday morning MLB matchups, Formula E races, and sports-themed Roku originals. They picked up the X Game. And then I have an article here, SVG Sit Down. Roku's head of sports, Franzita, calls new Roku sports channel a natural progression of our sports strategy. The burgeoning space Fast has a new player. The channel's curated collection. Okay, let's get into... Actually, that's interesting that one of its first things listed was WWE Next Gen. I don't remember that, John. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember that show. I actually watched it. Cena made a surprise appearance as well. He was actually the executive producer of the show. That's where that guy, Sexy BJ Ray, who's on LFG, he kind of made his debut, if you will, on that show. Yeah, but I actually watched it. It was on the Roku channel. It was okay. It was like 8 episodes. It was right around WrestleMania, and it was all tryouts around that WrestleMania. So there's a lot of people were on it. Shawn Michaels was on it a bunch. Yeah, it was interesting.
Okay, so it's just like the tryouts, like where they invite people, like from various different backgrounds. Yep. Like if you have an independent background, or if you're like a sports star, or something like that.
Yep. Okay. I feel like they've been doing a lot of that, like where they but they'll film a tryout and they'll turn it into a show. They've been doing that a lot.
Yes, it seems like it's always called different things, and then they could go to different spaces. Interesting to see that they're interested in wrestling, but WWE programming hasn't returned. Okay, so here's the interview. What are your personal early metrics for success? Success is growing awareness of Sports Channel and the individual programming within it, seeing viewers return to watch the channel and our audience growing over time, and featuring programming lead-ins that complement other programming and leads to increased viewership. What has the reaction been to the first season of Sunday Leadoff on Roku? How has the production partners ensured those games are produced? Partnership with MLB is going well, and we've expanded the reach of Sunday games to millions of users for each week. Okay, I'm just going to skip ahead a little bit. Okay. In what ways do you expect the president of Roku Sports Network to catalyze further live event acquisition? As a leading streaming platform and knowing the large audiences sporting events draw, sports is a majority priority for us. Is a major priority, and we believe all sports will be streamed. Okay. Now, from another article, 2/3 of sports content will be consumed on streaming next year, and there'll be more sports-centric hubs on the platform. So this is sort of by Alyssa Myers on sort of like giving us a fast overview. So I'll just touch upon this a little bit. From Amazon Prime Video's position in the WNBA's historic media rights deal to Netflix's continued push into live sports, streaming services have made some big moves in the sports media landscape this year, though perhaps not as quite as many as Saquon Barkley did on the football field. By most indications, sports streaming is only going to continue to get more popular. Roku predicts that 2/3 of sports content will be consumed over streaming in 2025. That unlocks a lot of potential opportunities with advertisers. Okay, so let's just skip ahead a little bit to see if there are some additional worthwhile quotes. The cable model has long been the golden goose of sports, and as we migrate to streaming, the question becomes, what's the new economic model, and how does data support that new economic model? I think there's a couple things. One is more targeted advertising, the ability to identify the audience and identify the audience as they're interacting with you. The other is you're able to start layering in interactivity that provides other types of revenue opportunities and other types of relationship opportunities with viewers, and whether that's sports, betting, merchandise sales, or ticket sales, or delivery. This year saw some new categories invest more in sports ads and sponsorships. How do you see that type of brands? I think that expansion is natural progression of the way the audience is growing. Having a digital platform allows there to be much broader prism for what types of sports get attention in a streaming environment. Okay, so this is a pretty extensive article, so we'll leave it at that if you're interested. That. So I think two questions here, John. As you introduced me to the Roku, what do you think about fast and sports and wrestling consumption? Do you think it's increasing? You don't often hear about wrestling fans being besides talking about classic content. Oh, there's the Savoldi network when it was on fast. Oh, I found this match. Or I keep it streaming while I work. But you don't often hear people say wow, did you see that evolve on whatever streaming platform? I don't think that's gotten that much traction yet.
I know. I feel like it's maybe an upswell. It needs to be promoted more, or it needs to grow. But I haven't really heard as much about the fast and different things. Even WoW kind of goes by the wayside because people don't realize where they can see it and watch it. And I don't know. Sometimes I feel like fast is just there for the content, but not a lot of traction, if you will. Not a lot of people talking about it, I don't think.
Yeah, I agree. So I think certainly it's a good thing. NWA was kind of on the periphery of irrelevancy. So just being able to stream via X for the last several months, a little bit, maybe not so much of a surprise, but a little bit of a shakeup with the CW and the NXT deal and planning from that. But I think the question for them is sort of, is it a straight revenue deal? do they get a percentage of ads? And for some reason, like wrestling and advertising, not for some reason, but we know why, it's always struggled there. So like if they have a base rate, that would help them more. Obviously, Corgan loves it and he's willing to support it, but, in a way that's most sustainable. So something to watch for. I don't think it'll necessarily change the popularity of the NWA. And I think it gives them some opportunities, and maybe, they have the relationship with Paramount, and we've speculated maybe they can get some wide syndication like WOW, but maybe things are changing for WOW, John.
I hope so. Hopefully more eyes. But it's interesting, though. There's going to be two NWA shows, right? Technically, the NWA that's going to be with the Roku, and then there's the Wrestling Central, which will also have NWA tied in with WOW eventually as well. So yeah, there's like going to be two different things going on here with NWA. Definitely more eyeballs, but will there be enough fan base to watch it?
Yeah, that's a good point, John. Right, because the Wrestling Central one did promise a new show weekly. So you have both of those moving to the Roku now, John. The formal show is going to be called Power, and that's, I guess, moving off X.
Oh, okay.
That's what I'm assuming. I'm not sure if you know anything more than I do, but it seems to be. But maybe they have a deal where they can keep it. But how much content? I mean, they can produce more content, but that would be my guess. Like X seemed to be like sort of like a bridge, but it also felt to me like maybe they are getting some rights via X. So if there's that possibility, maybe keep that going too.
Yeah. As long as there's enough people willing to watch it, you know what I mean? So as long as you get some eyeballs on it. So, speaking of WOW, what's going on with WOW, though? Because obviously we're talking about Wrestling Central and that. So is WOW going to be up in the ante? Are they doing some more content? What is the latest with WOW? What's going on with Women of Wrestling?
So, John, I'm going to be careful in the way that I say this because I don't know anything official. I'm just sort of like looking at TV guides and getting some AI help and so on. But it appears, beginning with New York, where it aired on WLNY TV 55, I forget if it was 10 or 11 p.m. Saturday nights, and then I think a replay on Sunday nights. And then for some reason, the WOW website had it on actual CBS, which I've never seen it. But on these platforms, upcoming next week, there's no listing of WOW. And that's, I don't check every week, so I'm not sure how long it's been going on. But
oh, wow, interesting. Yeah,
that's not there. And then I asked Grok to check the top 10 markets, the other top 10 markets, and then check markets through top 25, and then check all of the markets. So they couldn't find any airings in the top 25 markets, but they did find 3 markets that are airing WOW this weekend as we're recording this. New Orleans, Richmond, Virginia, and Cincinnati, Ohio. Wow, so, Richmond. And this is of the top 200. I mean, this is of the 210 Nielsen DMA markets. So I don't have enough information to say that's not airing 207 other markets, but it's not looking great from as far as I could tell. Would love to find out some more information, or if WOW affiliate persons are listening, let us know if there's something missed here. But we haven't heard an announcement, right, for the next season of WOW. They did have auditions, but we do know, like you mentioned, Wrestling Central, that they have a commitment to new programming there. They're on Vice TV, 12 a.m. late night on Tuesdays, and they have these other streaming deals and so on. But the syndication was really the driver and really the thing that made them stand out, not necessarily for popularity among wrestling fans, but at certain points, right, almost up to 400,000 people were watching it. We haven't gotten those numbers in a while, but did it drop? And maybe there's more revenue to be made in other ways. The question is out there. Not hearing anyone else talk about this, so this might be an exclusive, and hopefully we learn more soon. I think we will, one way or another, by the fall, certainly. But the one thing to note is that they are producing new content. So it's not like they're taking a break or so on. There is a new program that's going out at least to those 3 markets. But obviously going from 100% penetration to just 3 markets wouldn't really make sense ultimately moving forward into the fall, if that's what it actually is. So looking forward to learning more.
Yeah, and it's almost like what we're about to talk about now with TNA, but it's almost like TNA where past Slammiversary was like, what's going on? Where are they going? Now they announced they're going to be in Rhode Island for a couple shows. So maybe we just have to wait and see, maybe. But hopefully, hopefully they're going to be planning a big push soon for something.
Yeah, for sure. And I just grabbed the Rhode Island information before we were going on the air, tweeted it out. So not even in my notes yet, but
Yes.
I will get there for sure. So the first thing is to reflect back on the Arizona shows, because WrestleTix did a nice, after the fact, especially the Wrestling Against All Odds. So ultimately things picked up very nicely. 1,807 tickets. Last week, I think it was right before WrestleTix had shared out the latest that I think it was just a little bit over 1,000. But again, I praise TNA for this. This is not a criticism for them, but it's very interesting business wise. VetTix, so for veterans and their families, obviously you have a very big venue and you want to fill up the seats. 374 tickets were distributed, so that's a pretty big percentage of comps, and that's just through one platform, likely their biggest platform, how they're distributing tickets. But we have to be aware that a fair amount of these tickets may be comped. I was thinking about it. I'm wondering if you give to a nonprofit like VetTix, if you have some sort of tax write-off or something like that. But commendable, obviously. Then the next night, we don't have a VetTix breakdown, but I'm assuming if it was the first night, probably the second night. So that, it's a big venue, 45, 41 seats, but it helped to fill it up some more. 1,486 for a 2-2-3-3 setup. So just a little bit of reflection back there. Then we have the Pittsburgh shows upcoming. $995 the first night, so June 20th, and a little bit more actually the second night, 1,093, which you don't always see. Slammiversary. So just want to check quickly, because as we're recording this is usually around the time that WrestleTix gives a Slammiversary number. Very curious about that. I don't see it yet. John, did you see an updated one today yet?
No, I even checked before. I didn't see one, unless I'm missing it. But I looked before. I didn't see one.
Okay, nice. So we're recording a little bit earlier than usual today, so likely it'll come. But very curious, because last week, just holding that same number, it was just like an adjustment on WrestleTix's part. Some tickets looked like they had been sold, but they weren't. They were never on the map, so they were at 2722. So the show July 20th. So from my math, it's about 5 weeks out. Still want to see if they can get to that 3,000 number and beyond, because that might be not necessarily embarrassing for the current management, because a lot of that has turned over, but obviously a very big venue. And like you talked about, John, Rhode Island. So was waiting for some announcements. So the Ryan Center in Kingstown, Rhode Island, I think that's University of Rhode Island. So you're running a college field house in the summer. So you don't benefit from most of the students being there unless they're taking summer classes or something, but to promote to, but you do likely get the venue at a cheaper rate. So we were talking about should they book bigger venues, smaller venues, and so on. So it looked like 5,000 seat venues were kind of big for them, but sometimes the logistics just change things and whatever. This is a 7,657 seat venue. I know they have no expectations, or I assume they have no expectations of filling that. And this is a venue that's been run by AEW for Battle of the Belts, where I think it was last year. I just saw a picture on through the venue, I believe, through their Instagram or whatever, and it looked like it was very darked out. So we know that AEW wasn't doing anything like that for Battle of the Belt. So obviously this would be a very small setup, but logistically, right, you're coming out of Long Island, New York, or Queensboro or whatever, July 20th. So here you have to like sort of wait a few days, but you could at least bring your trucks, and likely the venue would isn't in use, or they have enough parking lot space that you could park the truck and like save a little bit on logistics there. But I don't think talent would sort of stay in the area. Likely they'd fly out and then fly into Rhode Island a few days later. But first it makes some logistical sense. And then you're going to do a 2-day taping, so live followed by 2-day. Somebody had tweeted the obviously the executive running TNA, and he had said he likes live events, so that would be something that he would do in the future. So we could see this is an ongoing experience.
I feel like TNA, it's very smooth, easy watch lately. They're always kind of been. But what is going on in the world of GCW? Seems like they're adding in a lot of famous female talent to the roster here in GCW.
Yeah, so it's interesting. Like GCW's been, I think, doing it well, finding an interesting balance in terms of like who they are as a promotion. One is that they benefit from the death matches. Atlantic City looked like it did great. If the first night wasn't sold out, it was just GA tickets, and probably nearly so. And then the second night for a second day show, like did 5 rows at least sold out and beyond. So that was pretty good. And then threw in a JCW show in there, a Hall of Fame show. Just want to say, sending thoughts and wishes to Jeff Cannonball, who has had to retire from pro wrestling due to, his health, and, it's a progressive disease, and there's a fundraiser out there. I don't know a lot about indie talent, but he was actually pretty active with Catalyst Wrestling, our friend Matt Ryan. So his work stood out and liked him, and just sending him the best. But so there's one thing where there's a death match, right? And then there's like where mainstream, we have to attract like different talents on. So Shotzi Blackheart actually manages that really well. Like she was certainly a standout, right, John? She had like the little tank she would come to the ring with. I don't know if she's done that recently.
I don't think recently, but she used to, yeah.
Yeah, so she, she become well known, not only for that, but and so on. But like she's like you're running a baseball stadium, so like you need some people where you could be like, hey, actually she's not on the same show, but that's probably scheduling. But like in theory, that idea, or like Dallas, you're trying to track like AEW fans that they would know some of the talent. So like that's a name that you can use. So like you don't want to like, of course, make it seem like it's just an indie with like former WWE talent or just deathmatch wrestlers and so on. So like you have a balance depending on the show. So I think that's obviously a smart pickup for them. And just now we've been talking about for actually since September the JCW GCW feud, which is beginning to heat up, but still not getting a lot of attention. I know that the cage match on Sunday in Atlantic City, I think it ended up in the streets, and then it was maybe a no contest or whatever. And Brett Lauderdale helped, I don't know if they call it that, but like helped to invade JCW. And there's a video of that where he got in the ring. But I don't sense like a lot of heat to it. But I would think that like it would pick up and whatever. But like obviously the money element is going to be the gathering of the Juggalos. So that should be interesting. So just quickly, because we went through so much of like ticket sales here and there with GCW last week, and there hasn't been a lot of changes, just to go through their schedule. So we talked about the shows that just took place or a bit ago as you're listening to this in Atlantic City. Double shots. Well, actually, there's a day in between, but same weekend, Little Rock and Kansas City. The Backyard Wrestling is a private show that they stream on Triller Plus by invite only. Next day in Hartford, Connecticut, Dallas, Texas on July 11th. Of course, the show at the ballpark on July 19th. Tokyo triple shot. Running Rutherford, New Jersey, not at the mall, as we've talked about. Multiple shows there with emo, with juggalos, with Bloodsport, and so on. Then the Thornville, Ohio shows, JCW shows. Back to Detroit, a double shot weekend with Indianapolis. On Cage Match, although I don't think it's actually a GCW show, is the Cannonball fundraiser that Joey Janela is helping to organize in New Providence, New Jersey. So if you can get out there, go and support. All the money is going towards him and his family. Barnett's Bloodsport in London, and a ways away, of course, Anchorage, Alaska on October 4th.
Here and there is the greatest topic of all time, and obviously there's a lot going on. What is going on? Lariato Pro is maybe first to kick off. I think that's pretty damn interesting what's going on down there.
Yeah, so a favorite of many, Doc Gallows, his promotion, and of course working with his, I guess we call it best friend, his longtime tag team partner and accomplice, Machine Gun Carl Anderson, that they announced a television deal with STGN 49 Media. They were offered a lucrative deal, and it's an exclusive broadcasting deal. They'll be delivering entertaining content of live events, podcasts, and pay-per-view programs. Let's see here. They knew the time was right, and they landed a forever home for their organization. Chris and Jessica Johnson are the talent relations people, and they work closely with program director Veronica J. Woodward to ensure the first season of programming will be packed with energy, creativity, and excitement. STGN 49 Media has been broadcasting family-friendly content since March 2017. After going through major changes and rebranding, television executive Eric Mitchell stated the timing and partnership was right to grow expansion and the mission of both organizations. STGN is distributed through Roku, Fire Stick, and Turkish television, with visibility in 33 countries from Mexico, Russia, the UAE, including the US and Canada, Onsu, and Nashville, Tennessee, Channel 49 Comcast. Ahead of analyzing this, just to show their support of pro wrestling, they're actually showing on the channel Stranglehold Championship Wrestling on June 21st with your friend Mark Merrow, and Sergeant Buddy Lee Parker is on the poster, which is cool. So what is this? So I would think about this, and it'd be great if they had the same potential. It's a different world, but this is kind of like Ted Turner when he first started his tiny television station in Atlanta, right? Like, you work with what you have. So they've actually been a religious channel. I'm not sure if it'd be defined as like low power TV, but through that they have deals, or they acquired other small stations to distribute their programming, like in Texas, and then through agreements or acquisition, like in Nashville. And then they're sort of like, okay, there's all the talking about Fast and other distributors. They're always in need of content. So if they could add to their total content list, you could get on things like Roku and all the different streaming services, and good for them. They've been proactive in that. I don't see any programming of note, and they haven't updated their website or their social media much outside of their Facebook page. So it's, like I said, like previously, religious programming. So if they're very much in on wrestling and engaging content, I think they're sort of like starting from step one, and it'll be interesting to see where they go here. But I think it's important that the media overall doesn't just reshare, okay, they're in 30 countries, this is huge, and whatever. It's actually quite small right now, but it'll be interesting to see where this goes. Next is the Bash in Beckley. Whenever I think of Beckley, West Virginia, John, do you know that story of like Jim Cornette in Beckley?
Is it a Smoky Mountain story?
Yeah, I think it was actually, it might have been with the NWA, where like one of those, I mean, it happened 100 times. But I think this is one of the only times he got in trouble, where it's like, I believe that it was like a fan attacked him, and then he whacked them with the tennis racket, and then they pressed charges against him. And it was like a long,
Oh, yes.
yeah, a
Yes.
long time legal headache. But so I always think about like Jim Cornette when I hear Beckley, West Virginia. Everyone that's interested, look up the actual story. I'm not purporting to claim expertise in the legal elements, but it is something that he's talked about and written about. So the Bash and Beckley, ASW. So interesting article. When I was a kid, my dad brought me here to watch Smoky Mountain Wrestling. Remembered Adam Harris, wrestling promoter and announcer, as he addressed the crowd on Saturday night in Beckley. I hope some young fans here tonight will be treated to a night of memories that will last a lifetime, the same way I was. More than 1,100 fans from across southern West Virginia descended on the Beckley Convention Center between 4 and 11 p.m. over the weekend. So this is like a convention and wrestling show. From the pictures, there's a lot more space in the venue. It looks like a great venue for like promotions to use, like an old school venue. They met wrestling legends, told stories, and watched 10 matches over the course of the night. The Bash in Beckley is hosted by All Star Wrestling and the law offices of Stephen P. New. In its 5th year, it's billed as the biggest show to date, and fans were not disappointed. It's wonderful that ASW has a place in Beckley that we can honor true icons of the industry who gave their lives to the fans alongside current stars and world-traveled veterans and our homegrown talent. Legends such as Ted DiBiase, Arn Anderson, Kerry Morton, Demolition, and others were on hand to interact with fans before the show. The night's matches reflected the three-pronged approach of local stars, well-known independent wrestlers, and legends all competing on one route. I like the way that they had that. And as you've seen with some bigger shows, the convention before followed by a show that appeals to different groups seemed to be a formula that can work well.
Yes, big time.
So for people that want to know all the details about this show, go and find the article. And then an interesting article as well, a WrestleFest, emerging pro wrestling firm ready for second largest arena show. 1 year ago, Vancouver Island Pro Wrestling co-owner BJ Laredo was equal parts nervous and excited. With significant resources committing to staging WrestleFest at Frank Crane Arena, Laredo was hopeful their core base of fans and many more would show up. Turns out people were buying what Laredo and the VIPW brand was selling. The June 14, 2024 show drew over 2,000 fans, believed to be the largest independent pro wrestling show in the Pacific Northwest in nearly 30 years. When we were in the Departure Bay Activity Center, we were excited to have 150 people in the building. And now if I don't sell 150 tickets before the doors open, I'm nervous. Chuckle Laredo. Show stage in Nanaimo's Centennial Building consistently top 500 spectators, backing a product with plenty of Nanaimo area talent. WrestleFest 2 happens on Friday, June 27th at the Frank Crane Arena. So curious to see how that turns out. So very quietly, a show apparently took place with 2,000 fans.
Love that. Big time. Nice. Good job by them. Now, speaking of good job, what is going on with the City Tutors? You got another speaking gig, Lavie. This is your 3rd or 4th. What is going on?
Yeah, you're right on target, John. 3 in 3 months. We keep the momentum going. So City Tutors, Gary Rifkin is the founder, a friend and a colleague who I worked with at City College of New York. He started his own nonprofit, which was actually an outgrowth of the CUNY system and then sort of launched on its own. They have so many resources and so many different opportunities. Gary actually participated on our Trump Mania related panel at the college a few months ago, and then was inspired to invite us to talk at this event, which is called The Economics of Wrestling, Careers, Culture, and Business Impact, taking place at CPC on the Lower East Side on Monday, June 23rd from 6 to 7:30 p.m. I was told even before advertising it that the event was nearly full, but if you want to see if you can get a ticket, get a way in, check out, I'll keep it pinned for a couple of weeks on my X, and then you can follow the Google Doc there. So if you know someone who loves wrestling, wants to work in entertainment, or is figuring out their career path, wrestling is $1 billion business. You watch it, you quote it. Now's the time to figure out how to be a part of it. Hosted by City Tours and Chinese American Planning Council, this event takes you behind the scenes into the careers, companies, and culture that power pro wrestling. The night will feature a panel conversation with industry insiders, breakout sessions where you can connect directly with panelists and explore how your interests might fit into the field. So, John, besides being in pro wrestling, I want you to let me know what connects these 6 people, as far as we're aware. Kevin Gill, myself, Romy Glazer, Isaac Rodriguez from Arrival Wrestling, Matt Ryan, and Brian R. Solomon.
All have been guests on this show, and I've interviewed all of them, and you have you. So they've been all guests on Business of the Business. I love that. Look at the connection there.
Yes, so it's great. So I was the booker. John, I was the booker man for the show. I not only am I a panelist, but I brought in the others. And as the panelists grew, it made me kind of question, like, should I be on the panel? So many people are more ensconced in the business, but certainly this experience and the articles and the research, I have something overall to contribute. So whether you're into marketing, media, live events, storytelling, or strategy, there's room for you in this industry. This event will show you how to find it.
Love that. Check out Lavie's socials for that. But you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at 2Man Power Trip. Lavie, where can everybody find you and everything that is Lavie the Doctor?
Yes. Follow me on X, Lavie Marg, Lavie Marg. Check out my long form articles since finishing my doctorate, or just about. There's been about 5 or 6 articles that really go in depth into the topics that we've been talking about the last week on lioncubjobsearch.com. We are the official business podcast of PW Ponderings, and we are distributed via the Creative Control Network.
All right. Thank you, everybody out there, for listening. See you right back here next week for a little business of the business.